What's up, faithful? You're listening to another episode of the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle podcast, the Jordan Mason approved podcast. I'm Brian Rennick. He's Al Sacco. He's got Debo on the screen. We had Debo on the field. We had Jordan Mason subbing in for Christian McCaffrey. The world was ending prior to the game when CMC was ruled out. But I can only speak for myself, but I think my friend Al here, because we are a pro Jordan Mason podcast, I had all the faith in the world. In fact, I tweeted out, I'm genuinely excited to see JP Mason get his first starting opportunity, show him who they're dealing with, young man. And Jordan Mason ran all over the New York Jets. Al, how'd you feel watching week one and seeing the 49ers pretty much stomp a mud hole in the New York Jets?
I thought it was a statement game, is what I thought, because I'm watching before ESPN and Jason Kelsey's on, and he made a good point. He said, the Niners, they don't have Dre Greenlaw, they don't have Hufanga, and now they don't have Christian McCaffrey tonight. We don't know what we're going to get out of Trent Williams. We don't know what we're going to get out of Brandon Ayuk. He said, yeah, this isn't a whole 49ers team by any stretch of the imagination. Not close. And I don't know what's going to happen tonight. McCaffrey is a huge piece of this team. They're missing guys that are big-time players for them. And they came out, started a little slow, but then made an absolute statement, just physically dominated the Jets, absolutely ran the ball down their throats, just kicked the shit out of them from really the end of the first quarter on. Huge statement tonight, showed depth. You talked about JP Mason, who we're going to talk about a lot on the show, obviously. What about Jauan Jennings with a huge game tonight on a night where Brandon Ayuk wasn't himself? Is he still working his way back? On a night where Debo had a couple big plays, but a number of his touches didn't go for a lot of yards. They needed Jauan Jennings catches to get them, what was it, 5 first downs? He got something like that tonight. He was phenomenal tonight.
Yeah.
So I thought they showed their depth. I thought the run defense was much better than I expected it to be. And Nick Sorensen's defense looked really good for the first time. So that was the biggest thing for me, Brian, coming out of this. I said statement game in week one.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, couldn't be more thrilled for Jordan Mason. We have talked glowingly about him on this podcast quite a bit. I've been a fan of his since he kind of burst on the scene as an undrafted free agent 2 years ago. Love the way he runs hard, runs angry. He is going to be sore tomorrow, but it's going to be a good sore. And like you said, the offense started slow, right? 3 and out on the first possession, and then scored on 8 straight possessions after that. Just really made that Jets defense look like a defense that isn't a top 10 defense. And I promise you, by the end of the season, it likely will be. We did say that there were some pieces that they were missing and they might not be as good as they were last year. It kind of felt a little bit that way. But the one thing that defense couldn't do last year was stop the run, and they still couldn't do that this year. And Kyle Shanahan absolutely exploited that. And Brock Purdy didn't have a phenomenal game. In fact, some throws were pretty awful. But was able to pilot the offense, get big first downs when needed. And yeah, just left the rest up to Jordan Mason and Debo Samuel and that running game. And I mean, I don't think you make a better statement against a team that has playoff aspirations than to run the ball down their throat. And just, I believe they doubled up on number of plays, or at least they were before that garbage time touchdown at the end. But yeah, just an absolute ass kicking. And I know you and I were concerned about this game going in.
Yeah.
And the fact that they put on that performance really, really gives me a lot of positive vibes for this season moving forward, for sure.
And to start with Mason, because I think in a lot of ways he was the story tonight. Because McCaffrey, now Mason said in his post-game interview that he was like, I knew on Friday I was going to start. So the Niners have known this for a little bit, that McCaffrey wasn't going to play. We all found out really right before the game, a couple hours before the game or whatever it was, that he wasn't going to play. And with McCaffrey, there is concern there because we've been talking about it all offseason. He had 400 plus touches last year. The last time he had 400 plus touches was in 2019, and he played 10 games the next 2 seasons. He's getting older as a running back. This stuff happens. They get injuries. And now when it's this calf / Achilles, it's very worrisome. So this is still sort of a cloud right now that Niners are gonna have to watch. I highly doubt he plays in Minnesota on that turf. And from what you just saw, Mason, you have to feel good. You have to feel like you're okay because he comes into this game, and the fans have been high on Mason for a couple of years. Everybody's been saying let's see more of him, and he came into this game averaging 5.6 yards per attempt for his career. He had 83 rushes in the NFL for 464 yards, which is terrific. So what he did was basically what we've seen him do.
What he's been doing, yeah.
Yeah, 5.3 yards per attempt. Obviously, this is more of a sample size in this game. 28 carries, which was the most of any running back in the Kyle Shanahan, or since Kyle Shanahan's been the coach for the 49ers. So he absolutely
that's a tidbit right there.
Yeah, I think McCaffrey had 22 is his most, I believe.
Okay.
So he had 28 for a $147. He catches the ball out of the backfield, and I thought he could have another couple catches if Purdy for whatever reason on a couple plays didn't dump it off to him when he should have. But just played absolutely phenomenal. And he runs so hard when he gets to that second level. Once he gets to that second level, I'm like, you're not tackling him.
Right.
He was just running over Jets. And I just thought when you look at those first couple drives, so the Niners have a third down and Colton McKivitz gets absolutely annihilated on their first drive. And Purdy's got to rush the throw. Second drive, I think it was Jake Brendel. Just got just blown up.
Put on his ass.
Absolutely, absolutely blown up into Purdy. And he on third down, he overthrows the pass. So I was nervous. I'm like, they're getting their ass kicked up front. Like the Jets go up 7-3. Like this could get ugly fast. Like Purdy didn't look good. A lot of it because he was getting rushed early on. But then they just went to that run game. And they just like took the Jets' soul just over and over again.
Yes.
And I love that old school football, watching them just pound the ball, going up and down the field. And one of the plays, Brian, that I thought was big for Purdy when he wasn't playing well early, he had a scramble where he got 11 yards where he got a bootleg to the left. And that reminded me of the playoffs when he was struggling early, that he still knows how to move the ball. He'll use his plays. He'll use his legs to extend plays and make plays with his legs. And that kind of got him settled in a little bit where he went on a run for 12 of his next 14, I think it was. But what set the tone was Jordan Mason and just absolutely just crushing the Jets' soul.
Yeah, this game, it really paid off for me as a Jake Moody draft pick defender and a Jordan Mason supporter. This was a big game for me. This was a game where I was like, hey, like, woo, let's go.
I mean, 6 field goals, man.
Yeah. 6 for 6. And then another guy that I thought had a tremendous game and got highlighted at least twice on the broadcast was Dominic Pooney, who I think had a phenomenal game. Again, one of the concerns with Pooney is we knew coming in, tremendous pass blocker, was going to definitely elevate the pass blocking from that right guard position. But run blocking was the part of his game where he needed a lot of work. And I mean, again, twice today, he was the reason why Mason broke off a 10+ yard run. I even think one of his blocks is what sprung Mason for what would have been like a 20-yard touchdown. They didn't call that bullshit holding penalty on Debo, which was just awful. Just awful. But I mean, Mason could have had an even bigger day if that doesn't get called back. So just a lot of players that stepped up in this game that maybe you didn't think would be the reason why the 49ers won a football game against the Jets. I don't think anybody thought Jordan Mason was going to be a reason that the 49ers beat the Jets. I don't think anybody thought that Jawan Jennings was going to be a big reason why. Again, we are also a pro Jawan Jennings pod. We've talked 100%. A lot about how much we love Jawan Jennings. I predicted him to be, the 49er with the first touchdown of the season. That ended up going to Debo on that run. But I watched this game and I exhaled a little bit because
I get that.
I went into the game really still, all day today. I'll be perfectly honest. All day today, like I was excited for this game, but I wasn't like hyped like I've been in years past where it's like finally I get to watch 49ers football. It really, we've said it in the past, that Super Bowl loss was crushing.
It was deflating.
It was soul crushing. And then everything that happened this offseason, all of the drama, all of the contract drama, like I was not in a let's freaking go. The 49ers are playing today mood. And by the end of this game, I'm like, I cannot wait for next Sunday, because this team certainly looks like they are where they need to be. They, sometimes notoriously start slow. They did not do that. The defense looked phenomenal under Nick Sorensen.
Yeah, we'll get
the
to that.
defensive line looked great. The run defense, which was a big concern for ours, went up against a running back that many consider, a threat to win the rushing title this year. Breece Hall is a great running back, and
he had a rough game.
Yeah, and not only did they bottle Hall up for the most part, but Fred had that forced fumble, which was huge, a big momentum shift. And yeah, it just, I by the end of this game, I was fired up for this 49er season. It certainly seems like they've announced themselves as yet again, I think, the team to beat in the NFC for sure.
And they scored on 8 drives and really
8 straight
look clunky the whole night. And, with the passing game and everything else. Purdy, he starts out 2 for 7. Then he goes 12 of 14. Thought he was really settling in. He should have had that touchdown to Ayuk. Let me say this with Ayuk too. We all knew he was going to be rusty. It's going to take some time. Brandon Ayuk will be Brandon Ayuk. But when you drop balls in the end zone the way that he did, he had to die for it, but it was a very catchable ball. Oh, everything is going to be magnified right now because of, frankly, the shit that he pulled this offseason.
Yeah.
So you're making $30 million a year. You're making that. You better catch that ball. We'll give you the pass tonight because you're getting back into the swing of things. You're rusty, but all that's going to be magnified, and he deserves it, man. So you want the money? It's gonna come with with having, you have to make plays
with criticism.
Like yeah, with the criticism, because that's the word I was looking for. So Purdy looked like he was really settling in, and then he had the one drive at the end of the third quarter where he just looked like he forgot how to play quarterback. He airmailed the ball to his check. Weird. He forced a couple balls. Yeah, he just looked awful, and then he looked fine again after that. I thought he played, a little all over the place, but 19 for 29, 231 yards. Should have had the 1 TD pass, and he hit 6 different receivers. Juwan Jennings, like we talked about, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 64 yards. 4 of them went for first downs.
Yep.
And then Debo was second in receiving. He had 5 catches for 54 yards. But a lot of Debo's plays tonight didn't go for a lot. He had the 125-yard touchdown catch where he caught it on the sideline and broke a tackle. But other than that, it was 4 catches for 29 yards and then 8 carries for 23 yards. And he did have the 1 2-yard touchdown. But Debo kind of had a hard time getting going tonight, I felt like. He just couldn't find room, and the Jets have a really good defense. It's fine. But the Niners found ways to make plays. Purdy hits Juszczyk for the long pass.
Yep.
We've talked about JP Mason all night. Ayuk made a couple catches, but he did not look like himself. But to think that they were really clunky on offense, other than how well they ran the ball, and still score 8 times and still score 32 points.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. So like you said, it just gives you like so much hope for the rest of the season. Like, yeah, okay. It was a weird offseason. It was a weird preseason. Everybody's looked clunky this weekend. I mean, you look at some of the quarterback play this weekend, it was really bad. Yeah. It's going to take, the way that everything works now in the NFL with teams not really playing in the preseason and the way practices are, it takes a few weeks before you get going. So if the Niners are figuring it out without Christian McCaffrey and without Brandon Ayuk at 100% of himself, and probably without Trent Williams at 100% of himself either right now, he had to go out for an IV in this game, and you're still scoring 8 times and putting up 32 points. You should feel pretty good right now.
Yeah. I mean, again, you look at the offensive performances around the league, and, we talked about it in previewing this game. This is one of the best defenses preseason wise, right? Looking at the schedule, looking ahead at the schedule, this is one of the best defenses they were going to play on their entire schedule. When you look ahead at things, and again, things are bound to change, and defensive regression is real. And, there's very few teams who can consistently churn out top 10 defense after top 10 defense, right? The 49ers are on one of those streaks. Again, and if we're being honest, I have to wonder how much Kyle Shanahan has to do with that and the players that he brings in, right? Because again, it is a symbiotic relationship. It's not, Kyle Shanahan is not, there isn't a decision made that Kyle Shanahan is not a part of, whether it be on the offensive side or the defensive side. But yeah, I mean, the concerns that we had coming into this season were, at least for week 1, answered. in emphatic fashion. And like you said, Brandon Ayuk didn't have a great game. Deebo Samuel, I think Deebo Samuel, the running back, it seems over, right? I don't know about you. It kind of seems over to me. It doesn't catch teams by surprise. In fact, I think teams plan for it. And it just feels like to me, it's just Kyle Shanahan kind of trying to force it still, because that is a good skill set of his. But,
I hated the third down double reverse.
Did you? So I don't know who it was. I think it might have been Barrows. But one of the beat writers tweeted out that is a play that they practiced during training camp. And the result of that play is supposed to be a pass from Deebo to Brock Purdy.
Okay.
And maybe it just got blown up. It just got blown up immediately. I think it was McKivitz just got absolutely destroyed by whoever was rushing against him. And they just blew the play up immediately. But also, if you watch a replay of that, because the broadcast showed the replay just to show the magicianship that is Deebo Samuel. But you could see that Purdy was 100% covered. Like that play was never going to result in a positive yardage, if you will. But yeah, just it's 3rd and 5. Like why are we getting cute, right? You've been running the ball at will for most of the game already. Like let's not pull out, tricks.
Yeah.
Week 1. So that I didn't like that play call. Outside of that, I thought Kyle Shanahan had a great game. And the only other questionable decision was I think it was Jake Moody's 4th field goal or 5th field goal, where it was, I think, 4th and 1. They were on like
the 3-yard line.
The 3-yard line, yeah.
It was, yeah.
And I was like, if you go for it here and you score a touchdown, you absolutely step on their throats and the game is over, right? Because at the time they were up 26-13, right? And so you score a touchdown, you go up 3 scores. If you kick a field goal, you're still only up 2 scores. So in my mind, I'm like, you go for it there. Your defense is shutting this offense down. I don't think you need to be worried about that. Just have some balls and go for it. Like step on their throats. And that's where, that's the only time where I was like, nah, I didn't like that decision from Kyle Shanahan. But other than that, not a whole lot to really complain about or even nitpick in this game. It really was a very impressive week 1 victory. And I think that's the thing for listeners and for us and anybody else is to keep in mind, this is week 1. This is what is traditionally week 4 of the preseason. Now it's week 1 of the regular season. We saw teams, be pretty bad this week. And so again, to put up 32 points against a team that will likely, at least more than likely, be a top 10 unit this season in week 1, I think is wildly impressive. And it was just a fun game to watch.
So your boy, Jake Moody, Josh Dubow put up a stat. He had 2 field goals of 50+ yards today after doing so in the Super Bowl as well. The only other kickers since 1991 with back-to-back games with multiple field goals of 50+ yards, Matt Prater, Graham Gano, Brandon McManus, Stephen Hauschka. So he is in rare company doing 50+ yard field goals in back-to-back games. 6 today for Moody. And you know what else I was thinking about with Moody? Like, I know it can be an adventure sometimes. Like, he's going to drill a 63-yarder and then shank an extra point. But he's a weapon because Kyle is shown no hesitancy whatsoever to kick from 50+ yards with him. None. Yeah. And he's got the leg for it. And he was terrific today. So that's going to be a weapon for the Niners. You just hope he can find more consistency with, making the layups as well.
Yeah.
But he looked great today. It's the second season. He was a rookie. Obviously there's going to be ups and downs with that. So yeah, Jake Moody, man, you got to give credit where credit is due. The one player that stuck out to me a lot today on the defensive side of the ball, one of the positions we were concerned about, or we thought had to improve, I should say, is the defensive end across from Nick Bosa. I thought Leonard Floyd was terrific tonight.
Yes.
I thought he was terrific. And it started early in the game. It was the first drive. He made backside pursuit to tackle Breece Hall for a short game or no game or whatever it was. I was like, wow, it was a really good play in the run game by him. And then on the fumble where Warner punched the ball out from Breece Hall, Floyd had the pressure. On the interception from who I think Lenore tipped it and Flanagan
Lenore did, yeah. That was a great play by Lenore, and it just went right to DFF. But hell of a play by Lenore to break up that pass and hit it right to DFF.
The pressure was coming from on that play, Leonard Floyd. Yeah. And Leonard Floyd got a sack. Him and Nick Bosa were right there. I think they gave. I don't think it was half a sack. I think they gave.
I think it went
full sack to Floyd.
I think it went full sack to Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he was. I thought he was terrific. Absolutely terrific. And if he plays like that this year throughout the entire season, they're going to be in really good shape with finally having a good bookend to Bosa. And the run defense, which I've been saying I'm nervous about all offseason, was really good tonight. Really good. Jets had 19 rushing attempts, 68 yards, 3.6 yards per carry, and they couldn't get anything going on the ground. And that's from the entire night. And total yards 266 by the Jets, and a lot of that was garbage time.
That garbage drive in the end, yeah.
At the end, this Niners defense was phenomenal. You look at the touchdowns; they had the first touchdown drive. For whatever reason, they were playing soft on Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
the first completion to him was a phenomenal throw by Aaron Rodgers. Nothing Lenore can do. But after that, it was just I don't know if it was just they were having soft breakdowns or whatever.
It felt like soft zones, yeah.
But they clearly adjusted. And other than that, the only thing the Jets got going was on the offsides penalty, which was also Leonard Floyd, that Rodgers just made a great play to throw it to Lazard. They had nothing going other than that. Nothing. Yep. It was a terrific performance by the defense. It was a really good debut for Nick Sorensen, and whatever Brandon Staley's doing, in the background, give him credit too, because I know his fingerprints are on the defense. But we were worried about that unit, especially without Greenlaw and Hufanga out there. And week one, man, flying colors.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, and let's be perfectly honest, that Jets offense is going to be decent this year. It's going to be a top 15 offense because they've got Aaron Rodgers pulling the trigger, and Garrett Wilson is a legit number one, and Breece Hall is a a legit top 10 running back in this NFL. He's had better days for sure, but for the most part, going to be probably a top 10 running back in the league. And so, they're not the best offense, but they don't need to be the best offense if that defense is going to be as good as we thought it was going to be. Now, again, it didn't look great tonight. Week one, it is what it is. Kyle Shanahan owns his former assistants. That track record continues. But, I tweeted out during the game your exact point. I said, Leonard Floyd is the best defensive end opposite Nick Bosa that this team has had since the one healthy year they had of D Ford. Like, bar none, full stop. And it was evident in game one. And as long as those guys remain healthy, I think you're going to see, I think Floyd and Bosa are going to have double-digit sacks this season. I thought the defensive tackles played phenomenal. I think Javon Hargrave played really well. I think he made his presence known in both the pass and run game. I think Malik Collins stuffed a handful of runs just on his own. And even Jordan Elliott had a pressure on Rodgers that resulted. It resulted in a incompletion on a third down, I believe. So the interior defensive line was great. Floyd and Bosa were great. Warner, great as always. The peanut punch on that Breece Hall reception, which really
he was flying early. Yeah, he was flying around.
And then Lenore and Mooney and Isaac Yiadom, right? Isaac Yiadom was in coverage on Garrett Wilson on that last throw from Rodgers to Wilson, which effectively ended the game, right? The next possession the Jets had, Tyrod Taylor came in. Just an all-around great performance. It really felt like his defense was back to what we were used to seeing, which is, again, just dudes flying around, just looking to just, I don't know, just give out punishment wherever they can. And, I think I was talking to my buddy I was watching the game with, and I was talking to my buddy Tim, and I said, so like, I don't know, in terms of schematics, things like that, I don't know where Sorensen is, but what I do know is we've seen this defense succeed with guys very similar to Nick Sorensen, younger guys who've played the game, who have a ton of energy, who are on the field, just hyped with the guys when they make plays. Like, it just feels like that is what this defense thrives off of from their play caller. And it makes sense why Shanahan went this route, right? Like, again, you did the Wilkes experiment. He was up in the booth. Then Shanahan's like, no, come down. And that helped a little bit. But ultimately, I just don't think it was, he's an older guy, not real high energy. Whereas Sorensen, again, former safety, played 170 plus games in the NFL. A young guy that the players kind of rally around and are kind of just get energy from as well. So it was just like I said, it was a game that answered a lot of questions for week one. And even with Brock Purdy kind of having a down game, our producers who is in the lobby with us did put in this stat. There were 16 quarterbacks this week one who didn't pass for 200 yards. So Purdy got over that 200. Yeah. Purdy got over that 200-yard mark. It wasn't pretty at times, but again, no turnovers, and really did what was asked of him in a game where the run game really was the engine for the offense. And really a lot of times that's all you can ask for from your quarterback, especially again, is kind of get out of the way and just protect the ball,
Yeah.
But the difference is it's not like the ground game was going and he had 8 pass attempts. He still had 19 pass attempts. So Kyle wasn't taking the ball out of his hands. He still trusted him, and he still trusted him to make plays, and he did when he needed to. So again, just a great all-around game. I can't really point to anybody outside of Colton McKivitz who I would have some criticisms of, if you will, with his pass protection and some of the penalties he got. Jake Brendel as well. Here's one thing that I hope to see at some point this season. I would love for somebody other than Jake Brendel to start at center. And I don't know if that's John Feliciano when he comes back from injury. I don't know if that's Nick Zakelj, but I just feel like there's got to be at some point this season somebody better on the roster to put in there than Jake Brendel.
Well, they need upgrades there. They need an upgrade at center. They need an upgrade at right tackle. I mean, it just is what it is. Those guys, it seems like every game there's plays where they hurt the team, or especially McKivitz. I know he made some nice plays in the run game tonight. The pass protection did get better throughout the game, but we've just seen over and over again that's a position that needs to get upgraded for sure.
For sure.
There was one player whose name didn't get mentioned tonight, and I mean that in the best possible way, because they didn't want to go near him, and this Charvarius Ward.
Yeah.
Rodgers didn't even throw at him. So if you have a corner right now that people don't even want to test, we're not even going to look your way, makes things even better, because Yadam looked really good tonight. We know what Lenoir can do. And if Ward is going to cancel out one side of the field or whatever he's doing, that was really interesting to me. I'm like, wow, they're not even testing Ward.
The only time they did is with Tyrod Taylor, and he almost picked it off.
That way. Oh, at the end there, at the end, right. So that was huge for me. And I just think it's weird to say like a team as good as the Niners like tonight gave me hope, but it did, because I had so many concerns coming in with the injuries, with the guys who weren't there, with the new people on the defense. They didn't even have Gross Matos tonight, who's supposed to be a big part of their defensive line, to come in and look like that defensively. And the Jets are probably rusty too. Aaron Rodgers is coming off a major injury and hasn't played in a year, but I thought they were going to be able to run the ball. I thought Breece Hall was going to be able to make plays, and they just shut him down. So week one can be fluky. We know that. We'll see. But it reminded me a lot of last season, where the Niners had sort of a chaotic preseason with the quarterback drama. And obviously this preseason was chaotic as hell. But when the lights go on,
they kick the shit out of the Steelers.
Yeah, they kick shit out of the Steelers. They kick shit out of the Jets. It's like once those lights go on, they know how to win football games. This is a veteran team that's won a lot of playoff games, that knows how to win. And you see that over and over and over again. As long as the major guys stay healthy, this team is going to skate to 10, 11 wins.
Yeah,
they really should. So, you have to be happy if you're a Niners fan tonight. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah. And, I think, a lot of times pundits, people who cover the league, they're like, don't take too much from week one. And normally, like, I agree with that. But I would say with a team like the 49ers, I don't think there's a lot to take from week one. But if this team lost, I think there would be some overreactions, right? But the fact that they won, I think, again, there's something to be said about a team who just is as good as we think they're going to be. And I feel like that's what they came out and said tonight was, look, we are as good as people think that we are. And not only are we as good, we might be better because we did this against a top 10 defense from last season, which could be a top 10 defense this season, without arguably our best offensive player in Christian McCaffrey, without a Trent Williams who has had a week to prep for this game, with a Brandon Ayuk who is not in week 1 form because he held out for, right? Like, we point to all these things on the offense that were like, that can get better. And they just put 32 on the Jets. So again, I don't know that there's a lot to take from this game other than this team is really good. And I mean, this is always the case with any team, but especially this 49ers team, health permitting, like you said, there's no reason to think that this team isn't going to, be sniffing 12, 13 wins this season. And, they get another good test next week. They've got to travel to a place that
they've been horrible. They've been horrible in Minnesota.
Yeah.
When's the last time they won? I don't even know the last time they won in Minnesota.
It's a long time.
It's been a long time.
And Minnesota looked really good. Now, granted, they played the Giants, and the Giants look really bad. But Brian Flores gave Brock Purdy some fits last time they played, and he'll have a full complement of the offense going into this game, which he didn't in that game. But it's still a test, and so it'll be interesting to see on a short week, right? Can they, and like you said, the likelihood of Christian McCaffrey playing in that game is probably pretty low as well.
I would doubt it. I would really
especially
seriously
on turf.
doubt it.
So, another test ahead. And I'm excited to see, if they rise to the occasion when those lights turn on.
Yeah. And what I want to see, I would say the passing game today, I'd give it a C to a C minus. It just wasn't really working well. In spurts, it was okay, but it just didn't have that smoothness to it. You didn't feel like, we usually Purdy drops back. I anticipate a completion or a big completion. Today, it just looked clunky. So even doing that and scoring 32 points is amazing as that is, but that's what I want to see improve. Let's try to get that passing game going, and it will. Again, it's week 1. It was just clunky. He hasn't been thrown to Ayuk. Trent Williams hasn't been in there. Juwan Jennings has been banged up a lot of the preseason. So getting those guys back and just getting their timing back and everything like that, they'll get there. But it was a good game, man. It really was.
And the Jets are a great pass defense. They're a better pass defense than run defense. So
100%. Yeah, they have 3 outstanding corners. Yeah, outstanding corners. So it's not like this was the Panthers or something they were playing against and they struggled. It's one of the better pass defenses in the NFL. How bad? You mentioned the Giants, the Panthers. Oh my God! Bryce Young's probably going to get benched. They're atrocious. They may not win a game. They
look like I don't know. Again, if relegation was something the NFL did, like, they would be prime candidates for it.
Absolutely terrible. It's it's funny when you see things, and again, it's only week 1, but we were okay. The Falcons are going to be good. Well, Cousins looked rusty as hell. They didn't look good. The Bucks are the team that looked terrific in that division. Cowboys came out.
I mean, New Orleans played Carolina, but offensively, they looked. I personally, I have stock in Alvin Kamara because, again, Kubiak is the play caller there now. So I'm like, I'm going to get Kamara in fantasy, and he did well for me this week. But
they played a JV team essentially.
They did play a JV team. But here's the other thing: Ajiro Evero, who is the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, is a great defensive coordinator.
He's a good defensive coordinator.
The problem is they just don't have any talent, and they lost their best defensive player probably for the season in Derek Brown. So things are already getting worse there. And that's hard to believe because they just got absolutely embarrassed in week 1.
Yeah, the Eagles look like they could be a problem with that offense. Packers now with Jordan Love hurt, who knows what's going to happen. Hopefully they can get him back because I don't want, you want to see the guy, everybody, the best guys out there. Packers are a team again. I want to beat the Packers, but I want to beat the Packers at their best. So you hope Jordan Love can get back because they look like they're going to be a good team too. They have a lot of firepower. Cowboys look good. Rams and Detroit, that was a really good game. Both of those teams are going to be there at the end. We'll see with Seattle. Offensively, they had some struggles, but Mike McDonald with that defense could be pretty good. So I thought the NFC was interesting in week 1.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of good teams,
Cowboys looked great against the Browns.
Yep. Dak looked good. Their defense is going to be a problem, but I think the Niners showed tonight that we're still probably the team to beat here, even with all the question marks and everything else. We're still Detroit. The Rams always play Detroit well. So that game, I feel like if you're like, oh, well, they barely beat the Rams. They always play the Rams well. Detroit's going to be there at the end. They can run the ball. Their defense is better. They have weapons everywhere. I think it's still Detroit and the Niners are still the two teams to beat. I want to say Dallas, but we've seen Dak in the playoffs until he proves otherwise to me.
I think the thing with Dallas though is their defense was always good under Dan Quinn, but with good offenses, they could get exposed. I think Mike Zimmer is actually a better defensive coordinator.
He's a terrific
than
coach.
Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
And so
that was an underrated hire.
That's an upgrade to me. I think their defense is better this year. It's more sound. And it might not have as many big plays as Dan Quinn's defense did. But it's also not going to give up as many big plays as Dan Quinn's defense did. And they also went to Cleveland and put it on a defense that again is going to be good this year. In that Jim Schwartz led defense in Cleveland. So I mean, nothing is given, right? And the 49ers should still be considered the class of the NFC until proven otherwise. But a sluggish performance tonight or even a loss tonight would have really put some, taken some shine off the 49ers. And instead, I think they just, again, kind of made a statement and said, no, we're still here and you still got to come through us. And it's really all you could ask for in week 1.
As much as a team that's coming off Super Bowl appearance that's been in the last 3 NFC championship games, you're not really looking for them to make a statement in week 1, but they did.
They did,
which to me is amazing. So, all right, it's midnight on the East Coast as we're recording this. I'm starting to get delirious, and I don't know if I'm making sense anymore. So we're gonna wrap this up. If you're watching on YouTube, Debo bobblehead here from Foco. If you look in the description on the YouTube page, there's a link for a bobblehead for a new Christian McCaffrey one and a new Frank Gore one that Foco has coming.
Yeah, Frank Gore.
Check out that link. It's cool stuff. Order one of those Foco products. I'm gonna go to bed because it's super late. But I'm going to go to bed happy because the Niners are 1-0, and it was a good night.
Happy dreams, Al. Happy dreams.
Thanks, Brian.
Later.
Thanks for listening.